Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Andrew Lately. Action. That's what Prime Minister Andrew Holness says his administration is about. The Prime Minister made his contribution to the 2018-19 budget debate today, where he pointed to programs conceptualized by the PNP but are being executed by his government. Camille Gale reports.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness said for years the PNP has talked about developing Jamaica but has failed to put in the work that was required to make it happen. The Prime Minister argued that unlike previous PNP governments, his administration is different and they have the track record to prove it. Pointing to exponential growth in the BPO sector, Prime Minister Holness said the government has been able to attract more investors than the previous PNP administration, resulting in more jobs for Jamaicans.
We continue to grow this industry. An estimated additional 10,000 jobs have been created in the sector in the last year. Bringing the total amount employed in the sector, estimated by JAMPRO, at 32,000 Jamaicans. I remember when in 2007, 2008, we had about 8,000 people, between a little less than 8,000 persons employed. The industry is growing and it has amazing potential.
For years, the PNP government has touted the idea of making Jamaica a logistics hub, but Andrew Holness said his administration is now turning that PNP dream into an economic growth driving reality.
An international tenant attraction program is also underway. The legal and regulatory framework required to create a more business-friendly environment, this is being implemented, and the development of the Nearport Logistics Center in Kingston is in progress and rapidly gaining momentum. This government is taking action to turn the long-talked-about logistics hub into a reality.
Prime Minister Holness also argued that his government has found ways to provide Jamaicans with more affordable housing.
We have therefore instituted a developers program at the NHT whereby the private sector is invited through a competitive process to bid on producing affordable housing on lands owned by the NHT according to specifications and price points provided by the NHT. Once the developers are competitively selected and confirmed, they will be responsible for all stages of the process from planning, approvals, through to construction and completion according to the criteria laid out by the NHT.
The Prime Minister said these achievements proved that his administration is not just talk.
In 2 years, we have taken more action to have the widest impact and effect on the prosperity of the people. By the completion of this term of my administration, we would have built more homes and given more titles to Jamaicans than did in the last 22 years of the PNP administration. Mr. Speaker, some people want to be known as the great conceptualizer. Some people, great orator, great thinker. I want to be known, Mr. Speaker, as the great builder of Jamaica.
For BATV News, I'm Camille Gale.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Holness said work is now being done to develop land surrounding the Port of Kingston to better facilitate operations of the logistics hub.
These include the lands lying between the causeway and the terminal, referred to as West Terminal lands, the lands currently occupied by the Kingston Free Zone and the Jamaica International Free Zone, the lands referred to as the old zinc factory lands, which are immediately adjacent to Kingston Freeport Terminal Limited, and lands at Tinsipen, which are separated from the terminal by the Marcus Garvey Drive roadway. The plans are to develop all these lands to house modern logistics facilities, which will be connected to the terminal by an efficient and cost-effective transport system, with the boundaries of this entire area sealed and protected. The objective is that cargo entering and being processed in the logistics complex will effectively be treated as extraterritorial unless they cross the perimeter into the customs territory.
He said this will attract various companies to Jamaica's logistics hub.
The objective is to attract companies that wish to have their cargo repackaged, finished, labeled, repaired, and assembled to have these services undertaken in the near-port logistics facilities. Already, Kingston Wharves Limited has launched its new 160,000 square feet total logistics center, and already the entire volume has been exhausted. Kingston Wharves has also leased some of the lands at Tinson Pen with a view to converting Kingston into the automobile logistics center for the region. Mr. Speaker, the Port Authority has entered into a contract for the construction of a modern 200,000 square feet logistics facility immediately adjacent to the Kingston Freeport Terminal Limited. And construction, which has begun, will be completed before the end of the calendar year.
Business owners in the St. Catherine North Police Division are voicing their concerns after the state of emergency this evening as sales start to plummet. Most proprietors asked to remain off camera. However, they told our news team that businesses in the area are experiencing the full brunt of the state of emergency, which has already started to affect their bottom line. More in this report. Business Access TV is here in the St. Catherine North Police Division, where a state of emergency is in effect, as you can see behind me. This scene was similar as we journeyed through the designated areas of the St. Catherine North Police Division. The streets appeared normal as students and working adults went about their regular commute. But that sense of normalcy was overshadowed by the heavy police and military presence. Now, we also visited the square of Spanish Town, where we spoke with some proprietors who mentioned that business have slowed down. One proprietor even mentioned that she has had to lay off some of her staff in the interim while the state of emergency is in effect.
It has slowed down drastically. We've had to cut staff. I've had to come in and fill in certain areas. We've also had to scale down the items that we stock upon. We have to maintain the fast-moving items, like the chicken and chips and those items that will be readily moving. So we really had to cut down on our staff, and it's not good for business.
One street vendor explained that between yesterday and today, his sales have been cut in half. He theorized that people were afraid to come out and purchase his goods.
At a time like now in the day, we'd have more people coming around to give us support and so on. So I don't know if the people them scared who don't want to come out or what, but we sale cut by about 50% since yesterday, you know. So I don't know how long this is going to continue. The
business owners pointed out that they don't know whether the state of emergency will be a success, but they're hoping it won't last beyond the initial 14 days announced.
Overall, I don't know if what they're doing is really helping the situation, but we just have to watch what's going on and hope the business will pick up before the week done.
I am in the middle because, yes, I want the crime to be curtailed. However, when there are limitations placed on business hours, it affects businesses because most of my customers come after 4 o'clock because they come after work. So it's not too much of the lunch traffic that I actually gain from. It's the after work traffic. So when I have to close at a particular time, it does affect me. So I do welcome the fact that they're trying. I don't know if it's going to work, so I can't knock them for that. But in the meantime, I have to make changes to, stay afloat.
For BATV News, I'm Andrew Laidley. PSOG President warns members to pay up their taxes or face expulsion. We'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back. Pay your taxes or risk being kicked out. That's the threat from President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Howard Mitchell, to members. He says the government needs all the money it can get to fix Jamaica's many problems. Mr. Mitchell was giving remarks at the PSOJ President's Breakfast Forum this morning. Here's more. According to the president of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Howard Mitchell, the government does not have what it takes to effectively take care of the country. That's why he's urging his members to play a greater role in nation building by ensuring that they pay their taxes.
Times have changed. The client-patron relationship that we used to have, where you vote for a government and you leave them alone for 5 years, and they take care of you, right? That has changed. They're not capable of taking care of us anymore. Things get too complicated. We have to participate with them in ensuring that they provide us with the services that government is obligated to provide when we pay our taxes, and we must pay our taxes.
He says the PSOJ is prepared to terminate the membership of anyone found to be evading taxes.
There's a lot of talk nowadays about the big fish getting out of the net and how the private sector had said that it would name them and shame them. Well, we can't name them and shame them until the government does its job. But you have a commitment from the private sector that if any of its members are indicted for tax evasion or major corruption, they will no longer be members of the private sector, and we will name them and shame them.
The PSOJ president also pointed out that Jamaica has to stand on its own. He says the days of relying on the US and the UK for help are over. That's why he says the focus on manufacturing and agro-processing has been revitalized.
The emphasis is no longer on Big Brother taking care of us. Uncle Sam has its own problems. UK is in Brexit. We are on our own, and we must compete in a globalized world. And we must do it standing on our own 2 legs. And that is why manufacturing is so important. And that is why manufacturing and agriculture must go hand in hand, because manufacturing is a way to capture the value added that is contained in our agricultural products, in our wonderful flavor profiles, in our coffee, our ginger, our turmeric.
For BATV News, I'm Andrew Laidley. The long-awaited tourism pension scheme is expected to take effect by the middle of this year. Minister of Tourism Ed Bartlett says the pensions committee is moving steadily towards completing the initial processes related to the scheme. He says 2 sensitization sessions were conducted with tourism workers and employers, and they're now awaiting a review from the Chief Parliamentary Council. Meanwhile, speaking at the Tourism Service Excellence Awards on Saturday, Minister Bartlett said Jamaica is viewed as an all-round destination and the local industry is no longer considered a seasonal one. He said the services provided by workers are the reason tourists continue to visit the island. That's why the government is taking a closer look at the labor market arrangements to review the performance and the professional status of workers in the industry. Residents of Falmouth Trelawney will soon benefit from the $550 million Hampden Wharf Development Project. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Dr. Horace Chang, says the money being put into the town's development is a testament of the government's belief that the people and their interest should be a top priority in the developmental plans, as they too must reap the benefits from tourism. Meanwhile, Dr. Chang points out that there has long been a challenge to balancing sustainable economic development with preserving the avenues and environments for the local charm and warmth of the Jamaican people to remain in the reach of our visitors. He's, however, reassuring Jamaicans that while the government pursues further development of Falmouth, the residents and the stakeholders will not be left out. The People's National Party is expressing outrage this evening about statements by State Minister Roddy Spencer. In an address to labor rights over the weekend, Minister Spencer assured them that with a labor right as chairman of the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, they would now benefit from the resources being distributed. Mr. Spencer assured the JLP supporters that RADA's chairman, Michael Stern, would act in a partisan manner to allocate resources to struggling farmers. But PNP General Secretary Julian Robinson has taken offense to the remarks, saying that RADA is a state agency established to enhance the development of farming and to provide quality of life to families of farmers. He says Minister Spencer should clarify his statement and assure farmers that there would not be any partisan distribution of state resources at the disadvantage of others. And when we come back, Barbudans being transported to Antigua to vote. This and more in regional and international news. Up next. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. Transportation of Barbudans to Antigua to vote in tomorrow's election is on in earnest. Scores of residents have already been taken across the Antigua's mainland. More from ABS-TV.
The National Office of Disaster Services and the Electoral Commission sprung into action after the judgment last Thursday that cleared the way for Barbudans to vote in Antigua in the general elections. Soon afterward, registration began at the council building for those who wish to make the trip. Head of the North's operations in Barbuda, Major Lando Michael, says by Saturday, the exercise was in full swing, with residents boarding the ferry for the journey to the mainland.
And that has been going. First have started been moving since Saturday, actually, Sunday, today, and that will go on until Wednesday to ensure that all persons have the opportunity to come to Antigua. There is no nothing that says that you can't come because you don't have accommodation or anything else of the sort. All that has been done. So once you've been registered, then arrangements are made for both transportation and accommodation.
According to Michael, around 170 people have already made the trip. He is pleased with the process so far, especially since it made the opportunity fully available for Barbudans to exercise their franchise.
But in terms of the accessibility, that has been okay. That person is able to access either by going to the office or making a call to somebody and saying, okay, listen, I want to travel and I need transportation. All those things have been made available.
Only electors who are registered with the Barbuda Council Office for Government's Assistance will be provided with accommodation, meals, and transportation. According to a NOD statement, individuals who have to travel with children or other persons under their care should provide this information to the council office representatives on Barbuda when registering in order for them to be accommodated. Barbudan electors who will be staying with friends and relatives should also provide that information. Andy Library reporting for ABS News.
As the blame game begins in the Bahamas about how the country got on the European Union's blacklist of tax havens, the government is assuring residents that it's working to get the country off the list. Here's more.
The government is working in earnest to secure the Bahamas' early exit from the European Union's blacklist, according to Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest, who says he's confident after meeting with the EU officials and the Code of Conduct group that the Bahamas will be removed in a matter of months.
Because the matter has to get back onto the agenda of the European Finance Ministers Council. That can be as early as next month, or it could be as late as May. But we have commitment from the Code of Conduct Group, the EU's Code of Conduct Group, that we have submitted all the information that we need to submit, and now it's on them to act. And so we await their schedule, and we hope that will happen as soon as possible.
Back in January, the EU warned that the Bahamas could be blacklisted. Turnquest said at the time he was confident that would not happen. However, on Tuesday, the Bahamas was in fact blacklisted due to what the EU described as the Bahamas' failure to address all of its concerns and make certain commitments at the highest political level. The EU has set a December 28 deadline for full compliance with the criteria outlined. Turnquest has insisted the Bahamas is fully lined up and scheduled to meet that deadline. He says the government will introduce the necessary legislation in the House of Assembly in April.
Bahamas has made commitments to the EU with respect to adjusting legislation as well as not permitting the presence of companies in the Bahamas without economic substance, particularly for the purposes of avoiding or shifting profits to our jurisdiction for tax reasons. And we can stand by that commitment. And we're making the changes, as I say, that are necessary. In fact, the first piece of legislation we expect to be tabled in Parliament in April of this year to address some specific concerns around this issue.
Turnquest noted that the European Union's primary concern is the protection of its tax base. The Council has sought to ensure multinationals pay taxes where they generate profits. In response to claims that the Minis administration did not do enough to avoid being blacklisted by the EU, the Finance Minister asserted that when the EU wrote to the government and gave it until February 28th to respond, a response signed by the Financial Secretary was submitted 20 days before the deadline. However, that wasn't enough for the EU, which wrote the government again on March 2nd to express its dissatisfaction with the Minis administration's response. The Finance Minister says the government will do all it can to develop a higher diplomatic relationship with the EU.
We are certainly lobbying and constant contact with them to try and push this issue onto the agenda, hopefully for a favorable result as quickly as possible.
St. Kitts and Nevis and the U.S. Virgin Islands were also added to the European Union's blacklist last week. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's time now for Talking Stocks. 46 stocks traded today, of which 23 advanced, 16 declined, and 7 traded firm. The main JC index advanced by 459 points to close at 293,071 points, while the junior index declined by less than a tenth of a point to close at 2,872 points. Over 9.8 million units traded, valued at more than $260 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the US dollar market, 1,800 units traded, amounting to $560 US. Caribbean producers Jamaica, with over 3 million units changing hands, accounted for 30% of market volume. NCB Financial Group was second with 2 million units trading. Victoria Mutual Investments, with over 907,000 units trading, accounted for 9% of the market volume, crossing the floor. Jamaica Stock Exchange was the top advancer, up 94 cents to close at $6.99, followed by Derrimont Trading Company, up 39 cents to close at $7.89, and Carib Cement Company, up $1.29 to close at $33.49. The main decliners were Salada Foods, down 73 cents to close at $10.72, followed by Supreme Ventures, losing 48 cents to close at $11.52, and Main Event Entertainment Group, down 19 cents to close at $5.81. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost ground against the Canadian today, but gained on the US and British pound. The US ended the day selling for $127.47, losing 39 cents on the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian went up by 55 cents, closing the day at $97.05, and the British pound lost $1.48 to end the day selling for $175.61 on average. And that's the news, but before we go, a recap of our top story. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says his administration's achievements over the past 2 years have proven that his government is about less talk and more action, unlike previous PNP administrations. Thanks for watching. For more content, please visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Andrew Laidley. Pleasant viewing.